It was billed as one of the most successful IPOs at the time.
Beyond Meat, the best performing IPO so far this year, up 163% on day one.
In a year that's already been chock full of IPOs, Beyond Meat is the fastest grower of all of them.
This plant-based trend is real, it's here, there's real serious demand.
Kind of smoky, has a nice consistency to it.
Is it meat-like?
It's meaty. I really could sink my teeth into it.
Yes or no? Would you eat it again?
Yes, I would.
Beyond Meat was off to a sizzling start when it made its IPO debut in 2019. Better tasting products by the company and others in the plant-based meat industry led to soaring stock prices and booming sales, while growing partnerships with restaurants and retailers generated greater acceptance among consumers.
Everybody wanted a piece of them. Everybody wanted to tell the story, and that encouraged people to trial the products.
Our goal is to become a major global protein company, right? And so this is an important step in that direction.
Yet, something changed over the last few years. Rather than continuing growth within the industry, declining sales, mounting layoffs, and shuttered factories dominate headlines today. And Beyond Meat, once a leader in the sector, has seen its stock fall from a high of $239 in 2019 to hovering just above $3 today.
Consumers really found that plant-based meat alternatives fell distinctly short of what their expectations were for the category.
This was made to be a major disruption of the food supply and a major threat to the beef industry. And it didn't work out that way.
So, just exactly what went wrong? What are some of the challenges and headwinds facing Beyond Meat and the broader plant-based meat industry today? And can the sector reinvent itself to win back consumers' appetites?
So the plant-based meat industry was historically very much about bean burgers, things that were very traditional.
Going back to the 80s and 90s, the veggie burger was very big, products that appealed traditionally towards the vegan community.
And then around about 2016 or so, we started to hear about these new next generation versions, which were basically Beyond Meat's Beyond Burger and Impossible Foods version as well.
It's only been in the past 5, 6, 7, 8 years now where you've really seen more of a commercialization through Beyond Meat, through Impossible Foods, really going directly after that traditional meat and beef eater in the plant-based space.
Beyond Meat has become one of the fastest growing food companies in America because it's got a brilliant concept. It's got the same taste, same scent, same texture of real meat.
Beyond Meat was a work in progress for a number of years, really perfecting the product itself through various iterations over the years, and going public when it did, it was really in the throes of some real significant exuberance in the overall IPO market, which drove the initial valuation.
So this is just taking something that's been around for a really long time and taking it one step further for people who are trying to avoid meat but really want to eat meat. And this was something that they could do.
Initially, these companies really benefited from being embraced by quick service restaurants. The excitement was that you could easily go into a quick service restaurant and try one of these products without the added burden of having to buy the products at the grocery store and go home and try to figure out how to cook them.
Beyond Meat's successful IPO in 2019 aligned with the broader excitement around meat substitutes. Total dollar sales of the overall market reached $1.3 billion in 2020, a 46% increase from 2019.
Much of the initial bullishness around the Beyond Meat investment case around the time of the IPO was the expectation that plant-based meat could achieve a similar market share in the meat market that plant-based beverages achieved in the cow's milk market.
If plant-based meat turns out to be anything like plant-based milk, there'll be enough business to go around and the upside could be enormous.
Back in the day, people really thought that the animal meat industry would be similarly disrupted.
Unfortunately, over the past couple of years, the market has not grown as quickly as was baked into the IPO process, and that's where the stock has had some issues.
In addition to Beyond Meat's tumbling stock price, which has seen more than a 90% drop from its all-time high, overall sales for the broader industry has also stagnated, experiencing 3 straight years of a decline since 2020.
Ultimately, I think it was the fact that the products weren't as craveable as animal meat and are still somewhat more expensive than animal meat is what's brought it to an end.
You are going to experience, when you're doing something disruptive, pushback from the incumbent industry and in general, turbulence for stability, and we have certainly experienced that.
Compared to traditional meats, many plant-based alternatives cost more on a relative basis, which can deter consumers from making a switch to meatless options. meat alternatives have a $4.20 per pound price gap compared to conventional meat, versus a 31 cents per pound price gap for dairy alternatives.
The one disadvantage that plant-based meat has had thus far relative to plant-based beverages is plant-based beverages sort of slots in on the shelf as a mid-priced product, where yes, it's more expensive than traditional cow's milk, but it's priced at a discount to organic milk. Whereas plant-based meat, there really is no widespread organic offering out there, so you're coming in as the premium option in the category. So we think that's been an issue in terms of slowing the rate of adoption overall.
With inflation, we saw consumers kind of revert back to a lot of their more traditional buying patterns simply because they were more in line with what they were comfortable spending.
When times are tight, consumers are cutting back, they're much more reluctant to try new products they may not like.
Meanwhile, restaurant partnerships, while a largely successful endeavor in Europe, have not seen the same level of success here in the US.
The problem was that here in the US, we have a real drive-through focus with our quick service restaurants, particularly the burger chains.
On the operator side, the complexity that plant-based meat introduces into the kitchen, keeping plant-based meat segregated from traditional meat on the grill, has been a headwind.
If the demand is not high enough so that you can prepare these products ahead of time and you're going to have sufficient frequency of ordering these products so that you don't have to hold the line up, the whole idea of having plant-based burgers kind of starts to break down.
Thinking about your traditional, QSR customer, is that really the core customer who's focused on health and wellness and nutrition and is willing to pay a premium price for that sort of plant-based meat alternative? Is that the right channel? And in many cases, we believe not.
CNBC reached out to Beyond Meat and Impossible Foods to participate in the story, but neither accommodated our request for comment.
From the debut of Impossible Foods or Beyond Meat, they really targeted that consumer that was looking for a healthier protein option.
I think initially the message that they were better for you than animal meat was very, very clear and clean. So no cholesterol, lower levels of saturated fat.
Now the challenge for that messaging is better for you has to resonate across a number of different factors, not just the nutritional information on the side of the package, but also in the ingredient legend on that package.
But then the ultra-processed food concerns came in, and they were attacked for being ultra-processed, which they most definitely are.
For a number of consumers, a number of dietitians, nutritionists in the earlier days, one of the big pushbacks was the long ingredients list, the perception of processed ingredients in these products.
Plant-based meat products are considered ultra-processed because they're made from industrially produced ingredients. One of the definitions of ultra-processed is you can't make it in your home kitchen.
And processed, to a lot of consumers, is very much antithetical to wellness, health, and better for you.
Then you had the animal meat industry starting to fight back. There was a backlash and a lot of information put out into the ether through social media and so on about how these products are heavily processed, they're maybe not as good for you.
We sustained, as a sort of first company through the door, a lot of pushback that was generated by the incumbent meat industry.
And that narrative being out there took its toll over the last couple of years.
This was a 5-year battle, where when we went public, this misinformation started to come out, and it's a very strong campaign against plant-based meat. So it's going to take a while for us to set the record straight.
In addition to concerns over the nutritional value of its products, the satisfaction over taste also dissuaded many consumers from making repeat purchases.
Because the product didn't really deliver on exactly the right taste and texture profile and having a price point that was lower than animal meat, the reason for coming back to it really wasn't there.
In some cases, it may have happened prematurely, where some of these products haven't yet been ready for prime time. Because of this, not everyone has enjoyed their experiences with the product. They haven't come back for a round 2 as a repeat consumer.
You've got to get the health messaging, the taste coming together in a way that continues to recruit people and retain people over time, and we're not there quite yet.
Then there's an ongoing task for the companies to nail down the exact selling point of their products, whether for health or environmental reasons, and to figure out who their target consumers are.
The premise of this whole sector is the concept that somehow meat long-term is unhealthy for you. Is that really the premise?
No, I think it's more sustainability. I don't think they're promoting it as a healthy alternative. But the animal cruelty is part of it.
What we're finding over the last couple of years is where the industry is really pushed in the early days on the environmental message, the consumer has been more focused on the health messaging.
I think what we've seen over here in the US is people are more motivated by the health benefits for themselves and their families. And that's a more motivating message than talking about climate benefits.
Right now, the bread and butter for the plant-based industry seems to be among its vegan and vegetarian consumers. That only comprises between 6 and 7% of the total US audience.
It can't just be going after vegans, they're just vegetarians. That's not really where the growth is. So I think over time, the goal is still to pick up flexitarians and to really appeal to the broader population with something that truly is better tasting, healthier, more affordable.
Our view is that the headwinds that the categories face thus far hasn't really differentiated much from headwinds you'd see typically in a new and innovative category for the first time.
I really think the focus has to be on healthy. That's what resonates with consumers, especially younger consumers.
Beyond Meat, for its part, reformulated its plant-based products last year and has plans to launch a new steak alternative as part of its pivot to win over health-conscious consumers.
What we did with the Beyond 4 is we put together a consortium of doctors, nutritionists, dietitians, and others to help us take our health value proposition to another level.
We're seeing a lot more endorsements coming through from the American Heart Association, the American Diabetes Association. So you are seeing independent third parties recognizing some of the ingredients improvements being made across the category.
We decided to make our products even stronger from a health profile perspective. And that's the key focus right now, is how do we make sure that that message lands with consumers, and not only these products taste great, but they have a really strong health benefit associated with them.
The other thing that really needs to happen is that the cost of these products needs to come down. A lot of companies are very focused on bringing costs down. I think Beyond Meat within the plant-based space is very much focused on bringing its own costs down.
Over time, over the long run, the fundamentals and the economy within our production process will allow us to underprice meat. Because of the efficiency of our process, where you're taking the protein right from the plant versus running that plant through the animal to deliver that protein, we will underprice animal protein.
There's a real nice long runway, we believe, of innovation in this category over time, whether it's new processing techniques that will give you a much better performance in terms of texture, mouthfeel.
If those two things happen, real taste improvement, real cost reduction, so that they're more on par or even cheaper than animal meat products, I think that would kickstart the category all over again.
Long term, we're very bullish on the plant-based food and beverage industry because there's a very high correlation between growth in per capita income and growth in meat and protein consumption. As households grow wealthier, you see more meat consumption taking place. As you put more of a Western diet across the world, you run out of resources pretty quickly. So we know there will need to be other alternatives over the long term.
What we've done is over the last 5 years, fought through COVID, fought through very high inflation, fought through an incumbent industry campaign against us, and we're still standing, and we're getting stronger. I don't have any concern at all about the long-term prospect. I have excitement about it.